and a man both have the grace of living above 100 years,
Yeah.
the likelihood of the woman being labeled a witch is higher than the man being labeled a wizard.
Yeah.
On the other hand, because of our preference for male children, again in this country, when you have, for example, a man has just availed his wife, a man and a couple have just gone to the hospital to examine whether the wife is pregnant and what is she carrying in the womb and all of that, and the doctor just comes to confirm it seems the baby is a girl.
Yeah.
The likelihood of the pregnancy being aborted is twice higher than having a boy child in the womb.
Really?
So again, we commit femicide just in the name of we have preference for male children, and so I mean it's
So,
really about
this is
deconstructing life.
ingrained. It's ingrained, so to speak.
It's everywhere. It reflects everywhere, and we
Right.
just need to also point out that when we talk about women, when we talk about girls,
Yeah.
we are talking about our own daughters.
Right.
So they are not abstract creatures. So when we say women and girls should have rights equally as us, as men and as boys, we're simply saying our daughters, our sisters, our aunties, our mothers, our grandmothers should have the right to live free from violence and discrimination. We're simply saying that our daughters and our mothers, our grandmothers, should have the right to education, for example, should have the right to tell how to, their bodily autonomy, and most importantly, the right to live to become whatever they wish to become.
All right, let me pause in there. I mean, understandably so. You've laid down certain perceptions and maybe myths that Nigerians have, society has regarding women and everything. But if I recall, a former president of Nigeria at once in open glare, it was registered on the front page of Nigerian newspapers that look. My wife is only meant for the other room, and that you should not bother yourself with matters that concern politics. I mean, if you take it back in time, the Grecian era, right, you will also remember that even though the prisoners who were male were more important than wives. In that society, because they felt that the women didn't quite have so much to offer when it comes to deciding, decision making, and adding value to society and all of that. In fact, those guys were able to vote, even from the prison and all of that. But let's bring it to recent times. We've seen where some women, some men, who have a better, some understanding about women empowerment and everything, are beginning to say in this time and age that, look, it's the women that are not helping the women. Because we keep saying that there's a fraction or a minute fraction of females, in politics. In places where you can say, oh, these are the places where, the movers and shakers are. And yet, we have not seen collaborative efforts. Maybe there are. But we have not seen a decisive collaborative effort that allows more women to find inclusivity, in these within the echelon of power. I mean, we've seen the King Debates, where we've seen quite a number of other women. In fact, the Mr. President's wife, Senator Oluremi Tinubu, is also a senator. I mean, she's into the system and everything. And there is so much expected that having such women in these places of authority should allow for more women to also engage in the process, because they understood the value, the necessity that it brings, and the many progresses that we will be making as a country and as a society. But we've also seen a lot of back and forth coming also in regards a particular senator, Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan, all of the back and forth that went on. In fact, recently she had just come out to protesting over being excluded from Nigeria's delegation to the United Nations Commission on the Status of Women. That's the CSW in New York. Now, she's claiming she was initially considered for the trip and then suddenly excluded. And this is already sparking conversations and accusations surrounding neglect by her colleagues and all of that, and and all of this. So I don't know. How do we indeed reconcile all of these? If we find things like this, though alleged, still alleged, because we've not had a statement that has come, to clarify this yet. This is just a part of the story and all of that. Though alleged, Nigerians will want to say, and family members listening now will say, there's no smoke without fire, Ibrahim. There's no smoke without fire. Exactly. However you want to see it, right? Somebody will not just come out and say, I'm dying, if there is no smoke, nothing that might indeed induce death, right? So, regardless of whatever it is, we are seeing this at the high level. How much more at the grassroots? How much more in our villages? How much more in the rural communities? Do you think that as it stands, as we are right now, that women still have the opportunity to stand, to have a word, to say that this is how I feel, this is what I feel, this is how I believe things should be done in terms of leadership, in terms of entrepreneurship? Do we have, can women indeed access financing, right? Can they be seen to be heard and not just be heard, right? Because the family members are saying, how can Nigeria's financial institutions, and government supports women's access to finance and entrepreneurship opportunities, making them have a voice? Have we, as the UN, also engaged with the Nigerian government in that regard? Saying, hey, this is how we should do it. This is how we should empower the women, knowing fully well that Nigeria is also a signatory.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I think I'll take it from where you started regarding the comment made by the former president.
Yeah.
So the essence of the International Women's Day is to amplify the achievements of women.
Oh, okay.
And it is needless to even just to limit it to the family.
Okay.
So in the hierarchy of women's achievements in society, when commemorating the International Women's Day, we start from even the top. And the lowest of it is the family.
Okay.
Of course, the family is very, very essential. So we look at the contributions of women to life and politics, to social life, to development in politics and leadership, in the economic space, in education, in technology, even in knowledge, and in several other spheres of life.
Right.
And women have contributed immensely. Do you want to take examples from our own context? The about women's riots wasn't just an accident. It wasn't accidental. It was women protesting against what they considered a bad economic policy. And that policy, by the colonial master, was impacting on the lives of men and boys. It tells you that when the need arises, women have always stepped in, have always given their voices, have always given their commitment to the cause of societal development, impacting on everyone.
From time immemorial.
From time immemorial.
And yet they've not
Do
been...
you also want to take an example from the Ransom Kuti, Olufunmilayo Ransom Kuti, who protested against a harmful cultural norm impacting on the rights and privileges of women in Ogun State, in Abeokuta. So we have many of such historical antecedents that needs to be said, that needs to be amplified, beyond just saying Olufunmilayo Ransom Kuti was the first woman who drove a car in Nigeria.
That's the most popular.
She was also an activist.
Right.
She led a revolution. And that needs to be amplified even way more than being the first woman who drove a car. So in terms of exclusion, so you did try to go through mentioning that women don't support women. I would say that, so I'm a sociologist. And I lay a lot of what I've come to know about social, cultural norms, about practices and stereotypes and discrimination to a lot of research and learning from my discipline.
Okay.
So social realities are constructed. So when you buy, what do you call this, a baby toy for a girl, you're simply preparing her to become a girl and indeed become a wife in the future.
Right.
So when you have women, quote and unquote, perpetrating exclusion against fellow women, it is not in the making of those women, even though I'm not excusing it, but I'm simply saying that when a woman excludes a fellow woman, that woman has also been prepared,
Nurtured.
nurtured to see it as the norm. Of course, when we talk about female genital mutilation in Nigeria today, the people who are really doing the cutting and the mutilation
That's the female.
are women. But of course, there are women who are doing so that they could prepare the body of the woman to satisfy the men. You see how that connects? So talking about this exclusion thing, I think a society gets better when everyone is included.
Okay.
When everyone is not just included, but also meaningfully included. Because again, when we say inclusion, at some point you have people talking, maybe they have given them Ministry of Women Affairs. Maybe they have made them, there's a party, one party women leader and all of that. Those, to some extent, are good practices. But what women need is not tokenistic handouts. It's to be meaningfully engaged. Meaningfully engaged means when you have a ministry that is dedicated to championing women affairs, it is well-resourced, it is capacitated to provide and address the peculiar needs of women and girls in the country. That's on one hand. On the other hand, is also to say that when we say meaningful inclusion, I'll give you an example.
Right.
So there was a community that, whether a government institution or a development institution, invested some amount of resources to providing water, drinkable water, and that water, during consultation, men were consulted, where should we site this water project? And they just pointed to a direction, and then water was sited there. When the project was completed, the project became abandoned just immediately because women were not going there to fetch water. And of course, in most of our communities, who are those who fetch water? Women. They do 80% of the domestic chores in most of our communities today. So women were not using the water project in the community. They were still going very far distance. And when it was time to evaluate why the project was abandoned, why women were not fetching water, it became clearer that, women were not consulted. Consultation would have meant and helped to understand that at the very point where the water project was sited, it was not comfortable for women to go to fetch water because men sit around to play drought, to gist. It was like the safe space of men.
Entertainment hub for
Entertainment
men.
hub for men. And then imagine that a woman goes there to fetch water, carry it on her head, and her body becomes the object of discussion. Look at this thing, look at that. So women were not comfortable going there. So imagine if, while conceiving the project, there had been inclusive engagement
of the women.
Of women, men, boys, and girls.
Oh, okay.
There would have been a consensus around where the project would be most suited for siting. So it hurts all of us. It hurts our country. It hurts our communities. It hurts our families when we don't include the perspectives, the unique experience and expertise of women in governance, in economic decisions, because these decisions affect everyone.
So
Almost
Ibrahim, can we actually make decisions on behalf of women without including the women?
Oh, we cannot.
We cannot.
Unfortunately, we cannot.
Because it does seem as
some
family members have always said that, look, every time we see policies in Nigeria and all of that, they say women this, women empowerment, women this, and these policies have not been, put together by the women. There's not been one woman who's been consulted in the process. So it does seem as though we are assuming that this is what the women want, but it's not exactly what they may need.
Of course,
Right.
we cannot make decisions on behalf of women. We cannot even really understand. So for example, I do GBV programming.
Yeah.
And this is what I've been doing all years.
Gender-based violence, yeah?
Yeah, gender-based
Okay,
violence. And of
violence,
course,
okay.
that is what at UN Women we refer to as ending
GBV,
violence
okay.
against women.
Right, awesome.
So when I used to work in the deep field of Maiduguri in Goza, I had the privilege of leading the protection sector, the cluster of the protection humanitarian actors,
Yeah.
our NGOs. So we have a coordination cluster. I had the opportunity of being the lead of the protection cluster in Goza, meaning also what we were doing was receiving returnees from Sambisa Forest.
Oh.
So there was a transit camp. So on arrival, the military will screen and then hand over to humanitarian actors,
Okay.
ourselves.
Okay.
We will provide psychosocial support and then move them into the IDP camps or initiate family reunion for them, family tracing and reunion for them. So there was a case of a girl who returned from Sambisa Forest. She was kidnapped by the non-state armed groups in 2014, returned to Goza in 2018, and on return, the military screened her and said, okay, NGOs, come and take her. When we took her, I was the lead, but I understood clearly that as part of my work, my job description is to ensure that we provide, listen to this, culturally appropriate and gender sensitive case management. So because this was a girl, there was no way she would have been speaking to me, even though I was a team lead, speaking to me about her menstrual and hygiene needs. There was no way she would have been speaking to me about her experience and all of that. So I immediately called on a female colleague to please organize a psychosocial support session for this lady, listen to her, and let's get to know her needs. So that way, I wouldn't have, if I had gone ahead of those female colleagues, probably would have missed out on the important elements of the support that we should have been providing to her.
All right, I'll put a peg to your thoughts.
Okay, go
I'll
on.
put a peg to your thoughts. Let's open the
Thank
phone
you.
lines already. You want to add, your voice in the discourse. I mean, women are very important in the society, and it doesn't even seem as though women know their power in the society. They know their rights in the society, and this is what the conversation is about. In fact, quite a number of family members as well as people, diaspora abroad, have sent messages via our website, seeking answers to certain questions because we put it out there as an advert saying that, hey, today we'll be having this conversation even though the time was a bit short and everything, but we're still able to have reactions and all of that. And we will put out those reactions and their story and then have you, even if it is one line, just add your voice, to it. But you want to ask Ibrahim Nurudeen, who is the UN Women Program Manager for Ending Violence Against Women and Girls. Some very salient questions right there. You can do so. Call the number 0907 353 0044. That is 0907 353 0044. The other number is 0908 766 8888. And you send a WhatsApp message to the WhatsApp number now 0909 705 4450. Has there been a question that has been bothering you in this light as a female? You've been thinking about getting into business and you've been experiencing setbacks and all of that. You've been thinking about getting into politics and you've also not been finding it easy in any ways. And it's been very challenging and you have 1,001 questions in your mind and you want to ask it. Now is the right time for you to do so, or better still, you can get onto the Facebook page wall and leave us a message in the comment section underneath this television experience that we give to you right now and put out your thoughts. Do the same with the YouTube channel Eagles TV Abuja and you will indeed get your thoughts heard loudly and clearly. Right, now let's just quickly jump into some of the conversations as put together by some family members right there via the website. Now this one is coming from Adeola, who is a small business owner in Lagos. Says, I struggle to get a loan to expand my business because banks require collateral, which I don't have. Agencies like the Nigeria Investment Promotion Commission, NIPC, and NGOs like the Nigerian Women's Trust Fund and WTF are working to promote women's economic empowerment, right? And that's some question. She says, how can Nigeria address the gender financing gap. Gender financing gap. All right, I'm going to strew in another question now. And this one says, Ruth, being a student in Abuja, she says, I want to see more women in politics, but it's hard to find role models. Recall that Rwanda has 61.3% of women in parliament, and that's according to the World Economic Forum 2025, and Nigeria can learn from Rwanda's experience. It's not even just Rwanda, let me add to that. I mean, even South Africa has also had, a high percentage of women in politics, and it has brought, some gains, to South Africa at the moment. And the question says, how can Nigeria